Dang it, Dragon! You good call. I just started recording now, so let me restart this whole introduction because I forgot the first rule to start recording. So again, welcome everybody. First LAN stream, first stream of my career. Do a quick introduction. So I am Brian's again for those who don't know me, aka Brybro27, aka Mr. Monopoly Man. That's a self-imposed nickname of myself. We can get to that later. I started playing Splinterlands back in June of 2021. Got hooked pretty quickly just from opening packs. Probably dropped a few hundred right off the bat because I thought it was so cool to open packs, see what cards you get, and to be able to like sell them instantly. Usually that's not allowed in most games, but Splinterlands was one of the first that allows you to do that with legally. So got hooked instantly. I was pretty active on the Telegram channel, and that's where I kind of started working for the support team in August, I'd say. It's kind of when the game started exploding after like the release of SPS. And so working on support team got me really into the game and quickly transitioned to a QA engineering role at the beginning of this year. So that's what I'm doing now, part-time quality assurance engineering for the team. Beyond just playing the game, it's kind of cool to see what's being worked on in the background and kind of just share all the excitement with you guys. One thing a quick disclaimer, I do not have any insider news with land, at least not currently. It's probably a good thing because I don't think I'd be able to keep that shut and not share that with you guys. I'm sure I could probably dig in and find out what's currently being worked on, but I'm not going to do that because I don't want to just ruin any experience. I kind of want to be on the same page with you guys and kind of speculate and not ruin any of that speculation or anything. So we're going to try to stay away from that. Maybe depending on how this stream success goes and future streams go, the team may utilize this to help announce any news or just kind of allow the team to explain certain aspects or mechanics of different Lambda development. So we'll see how that goes. I've talked to them a little bit about it, and I think they're just going to wait to see how it gets started. If it goes well and they like it, it may turn into something more. If not, at least it's a way I get to kind of interact with you guys a little bit more directly, and we can just have fun ourselves. That's the whole goal. And if we're not having fun, then I'm not doing something right. So yeah, I guess the last thing about me is I might as well share what my land holdings are. I don't mean to gloat at all. I do want it to be a way for you guys to just know what my position is and kind of why I wanted to start this stream. I am a pretty heavily invested in land, and maybe by me sharing kind of like my excitement towards the land, what I'm looking forwards to, and then just in the future what my strategies are. I'm hoping that you guys can kind of prosper from it as well, and then we can all kind of interact and hopefully reap all the rewards together. I'm not looking to capitalize this myself or actually do a monopoly with land. I think land's going to be a big enough economy where everyone can prosper from it. So as long as everyone is fully aware of all the different mechanics and everything, I think that it'll go well. And that's just kind of my goal for this stream. So if you guys ever have any community feedback, any questions, feel free just to reach out. Definitely do it live during the stream because there's a lot about land. I'm not going to cover everything. I don't know everything, but at least we can talk about it, and I can at least save some questions that I can't answer for later ones. So yeah, going back. So I do have, I think it's 2,276 plots total. That's composed of 2 regions, 2 tracks, and only 76 plots. My goal is to get up to 100 plots before the release of phase 1. If I get more than that, I think that's going to be even better, but I'm fully on board with land. In my mind, you can never have enough land. And if you do only have a few plots, I think that's so much better than not having any plots at all. So don't compare yourself to me, because the comparison's not fair at all. I got lucky with my investments. If I would ever do it again, I'm not sure I would. But just where I'm at right now, I'm happy happy I bought as much as I did, and I think it's really going to work out in the end. I think I don't know. There's just so much to it. It's going to be a whole game in itself. So I'm excited for it. I do think in future streams, I may have some type of counter that shows all my land, or like a tracker, because I think it'd be curious to see how many, new plots I end up buying in future streams. And then you guys can, I think it'd be something that if people see like a team member buy plots, which I know quite a few have, and there's a lot of team members that don't have any plots right now, and definitely are looking for a good entry point. I think just seeing that kind of just shed some light that, land is going to be big, and if team members are trying to get in before it's too late, there's no reason why no one else should. So maybe a tracker will be good. I'm not sure if I will. Again, I don't want to gloat in any way. It's just my way of trying to share the excitement with you guys. So with that being said, let's get started to... Ooh, that's not good. All right, let's get started. So I have this first stream. It's going to be pretty basic. Again, I don't have any insider news to share with you guys. The goal of this first stream is just to get the stream kicked off, become more comfortable with streaming in general, and then I want to go over the basics of land. What is it? Why you should be aware of it. If you don't have any land, why you should buy land. If you do have land, I guess, what you should know everything that I'm about to go over. On top of that, I do want to go over how to buy land on the different secondary markets that we have, and also how to transfer that land from those markets into the game and vice versa. It's a very common question, so doing that live, I'm sure, should help in case people want to reference that in the future. And then lastly, I do want to talk about the new official roadmap that was just released this Wednesday. Not the greatest news for most landholders, but that's definitely a good discussion to bring up. And I think there's a lot to look forward to. So rather looking in the near future, I think once we start kind of get a better understanding of what the first phase actually is going to all consist of, I think most people will agree that it will be worth the wait. I know a lot of us want it to be released as soon as possible, but again, it's going to be bigger than the actual game is right now. So you guys, if whoever holds it and continues to hold it, I mean, everyone's going to be very well rewarded at the end. So we'll get to that discussion in a little bit. So let's kick this guy off. Yeah, so when I talk about land, if you're not familiar with land at all, I think the best reference point is splintercards.com, because they have this wonderful site that takes all the information that we know about land and compiles it into one page. So I'll post any link that I go over. I'll try to post in a description of my recording, which I will upload to YouTube once I figure that all out. And yeah, so all links will be included in that. So if you don't already have them bookmarked, hopefully you get them bookmarked at the end of this. But yeah, so this page has everything. It took, when land was first released, there was a Peak D post about it. And this page kind of does a quick summary of everything on that post and wraps it all into one site. So let's begin. What is land? That's actually a golden question. Land is, like I mentioned, right now, Splinterlands is mainly based off of cards and playing other players, battling other players with the cards, tournaments, stuff like that. Cards have their own ecosystem and economy, and land is going to be basically the same exact thing, but just as big. So if you imagine kind of the whole card economy right now, that's all going to be kind of like doubled, but in terms of just like land and its own assets. I think the coolest thing with land is that, compared to like cards, the Splinterlands company are the ones that mint all the cards, and when you buy like card packs, for instance, the company gets that revenue. With land, whenever you mint a item or a spell, all that revenue is actually going to be going straight to the owner of the land. So I think that's one thing that people have to realize, that Splinterlands is not profiting at all anymore from land, even though they're making it into such like a complicated ecosystem. I think it's awesome because they've already received all the profit or income that they have just through the initial land sell. And beyond that, they're not going to really be earning anything else beyond that. Maybe transaction fees in the in-game market, but that's about it. So the fact that they're going to make it such a awesome and like new, like functional or new like gameplay within the game, and they're not going to be kind of rewarded in any way, it just kind of goes to show like how generous this team is. Matt and Aggie are kind of the most generous, especially like co-founders that I've ever known or got to know, and there's just so many ways that they show that. So land is going to be, like, I think, the biggest way for them to show that. And again, not until it's released, we're not going to really know how that works until it is released. But I'm warning everyone, it's going to be the craziest ecosystem that you know. Beyond that, what land actually is going to do is it's going to allow players to craft items and spells. And what that means is that now when you play in battles, there's only one phase, and that's just creating your lineup and letting the game kind of play the battle for you. With land being introduced, items and spells are going to add an extra phase after you submit your lineup. So after you submit your lineup, once you see both, like your opponent sees your lineup and you see their lineup, there's going to be a new phase, and that's where items and spells will come into play. So once you see your opponent's lineup, you will then be able to play an item or a spell, depending on what the lineup is, depending on what you want to do. But it allows you kind of to adapt your team in a way that you think will give you a better advantage in winning against your opponent. So that's going to be huge. So that's kind of like the main overview of what like land's going to introduce. But beyond that, just kind of just like cards, you'll be able to buy and rent lands. So again, similar to how the card economy is right now. And then you'll obviously be able to farm and harvest those resources. The construction and development, I think, is going to be similar to how like guilds kind of are, but again, it's going to be all built into land, and those will probably have an impact on your harvest rate, farming rate. We're not really sure what those details are yet, but that's just the main gist of things. I don't want to read directly from this website, but I'm just kind of touch on what I think the most important pieces are. So the first thing is, I guess, how much land, or like what's the quantity of land right now? So when they released land, they released it as like a continent within Splinterlands. And what that means is that that continent is called Pretoria, and that's defined of 150,000 total land plots. So I'll actually show, so this image right here is what Nate, our creative director, shared a few months ago. It's definitely, don't take this as the official kind of map of Pretoria. I think it was more of a concept art, and it's not completely finalized, but I think it's a good enough visual right now for what land's going to look like. So this visual shows the whole continent of Pretoria. And like I mentioned, there's 150,000 total plots. What makes up those plots are 150 regions. Each region is 1,000 plots. And so the different icons that you see right here kind of looks like a little castle emblem. I think those are symbolizing a region. I think there's only 98. Someone actually counted this picture for some reason, and I think they said there's only 98 regions total. So again, this picture is not official, but I think ideally there would be 100 regions total, or 150 regions total, and that's what's going to make up the 150,000 plots. Within each region, there's 10 tracts. Each tract contains 100 plots. And yeah, so that equals a whole 150,000 plots. When they did the land sale, you had the option to buy either a region, so 1,000 plots together, a tract, which is 100 plots, or individual single plot. So how that turned out right now is that there are, I guess there how to describe it. There's not 150 regions like claims. So like there's not 150 regions that were bought as one. I think total there's only around 90 regions that were bought together, meaning like a single person owns the whole region. If you were to buy a tract or a plot during the sale, you're actually buying a tract that was part of like a region that got split up between multiple owners. Same thing with the plot. So when I go into the tract or the keep and castles, it'll kind of make more sense. So each region is going to contain at least one castle, and each tract is going to contain a keep. So when I say that, so since a region is made up of 10 tracts, one of those tracts is going to have one castle, and the other 9 are going to have keeps. So then if you bought a single tract during the sale, you actually have the chance of having that tract have the castle. So it's a 1 out of 10 chance of getting a castle instead of a keep. You're guaranteed to have a keep. But you obviously a castle, not obviously, because you guys probably don't know what castles even do. But a castle is better, so you're gonna want to luckily or hope you get lucky and get that keep or the castle, because I think we'll get into a little bit later. But those are gonna help kind of they're gonna have an effect on like your harvesting and everything. So yeah. And yeah, so if you bought a single plot, each plot will have, I think it's 1 in 1,000 chances to have it's 1 in 100 chance to have a keep, and 1 in 1,000 chance to have a castle. So right now with like my 76 single plots, I'm hoping to get lucky and get another castle, because then I'll match Cryptomancer, who has three regions total. If not, a keep would be nice. I am hoping to get 100 single plots, because I do think that would make up for a whole tract. But we'll see. We're not sure if that's going to work that way. It may. I'm getting distracted by this chat. I'm not used to reading chat and talking at the same time. So please bear with me. Bulldog, this is my first stream. I did have to semi-show a beard because I did not want to look Canadian like Chatter. I'm not Canadian, so that's not the case. And yeah, Dragon, 2 castles guaranteed for me right now. We'll see. 2 keeps at least with the tracks. And it'll be interesting to see how the reveal goes. So I'm hoping for more, obviously, but you never know. So yeah, so that's a map of Pretoria. We don't really know how official this is going to be, but hopefully that helped a little bit in terms of when the reveal does come, it'll be interesting to see where your plot is located on this map, because the location will affect probably like the resource type that that plot turns into. If you're in like a forest area, you're probably going to get more of like a wood resource. If you're near the water, it's probably going to be more of like a water type. Again, that's not until phase 1. We don't really know any of the details on that, so can't really speculate too much. But that's just the main gist of it. All right, so we'll go back. Continue along. Talking about land type, again, I don't want to go into this too much because a lot of it is just not, we don't really know what any of these resources are really, what items are going to be created with these resources, how many of each, stuff like that. So this is just a quick, I think, overview of it. A lot of speculation left to do, but nothing to really spend too much time on. But yeah, so depending on your land, when the phase 1 gets introduced, you'll be able to see both the location and then also what the land type is. I think there's, 12 total? 15 maybe. I think 15 different land types, and they are all listed here. So one of your plots can be any one of these land types. there are different categories in terms of I think like what the types can what you can like harvest from that land type. So there's 4 different natural ones: grain, wood, stone, and ore. Kind of similar. If you guys ever play Catan, very similar. This is how I kind of compare it to, because it's almost the exact same like resource types, which I thought was interesting. But I did actually talk to Nate, and he mentioned that grain may not be one of the natural resource types, because he said it doesn't really integrate well with like their current lore. Like, what do you use grain to build with? Nothing really. He said maybe to feed the monsters that work on your land, but that may change. He was thinking more of like a wool potentially, something a little bit more that you can use to build, I guess. But I thought that was a interesting tidbit from him. So that may change. I think that's just going to be. We'll probably see wood, stone, and ore at least. We're not really sure what the 4th one may be. But like this says, these resources are going to be used to upgrade and build and maintain your buildings. Beyond that, you may have a chance of getting magical resources instead of natural. I think magical are going to be a little bit more rare than natural resources. Those 6 are gonna they're here. I'm not going to try to say the first one, Vertulium. You got Reclaimed Souls, Yolana Seed, Sparkstone, Bottle Storms, and Heliostone. These are going to be mainly used to mint items and or spells. So I think you're going to want a pretty good mix of both natural and magical. Because again, your buildings, if you reference, I guess, what like guild buildings are doing, I think the higher level your buildings are, the better impact and boost you're going to have for potentially like harvesting and actually minting the items and spells as well. So magical are going to be just as important. Let me read this. So the current land value for the known rarity, do you think that would be floor for common? What do you think a legendary plot would hit? No worries. Let me get to that actually. So I'll get to that once we hit the rarities here. The last thing is so each land I think is going to have a natural or magical resource that you can harvest. If you don't have one of those, it's probably going to be an occupied land, meaning there's already wild monsters on that land. And I think you're going to have to use summoners and like monsters yourself to fight those occupants. And obviously, I think automatically you're going to beat them. There's not going to be like a chance that they could defeat you and maybe burn your cards. No, that'd be cruel. But yeah, I think automatically if you use like a summoner and monsters to kind of combat those wild monsters, then you'll start gaining essences from that. I think that's majority of where we talk about land workers. It's probably, in my mind, it's going to be in regards to fighting those occupied lands. I know there are going to be land workers in your buildings as well. But again, we don't know too many details on all that. I think it's been thrown around that at least one summoner and I think like 5 monsters will be able to work on lands. So I'd imagine that would be towards the occupied lands. And the higher level the summoner, the higher level monsters you can use, similar to how like ranked battle play is. But yeah, that's still a lot of information that we're waiting to hear on that. Other streams will talk about probably preparation and different strategies on how you could prepare depending on how many plots you have. And I think the biggest one right now is what summoners should you be buying? What monsters? Should they be gold foils? Should they be alpha or beta cards? All that we'll get to probably in later streams because I mean, again, we're a little far away from actual land developments, so I can kind of schedule those for future ones once we get a little bit more information. After you know your category, there will be a land rarity for each plot. So similar again to cards, I think the rarity is going to just kind of boost that single plot compared to the other rarities. So there's common, rare, epic, and legendaries. Similar to cards, I don't think there's not going to be a max print rate for these specific rarities. I think it's going to be a chance as you reveal it, meaning there's not going to be, only 1,000 legendary plots in the whole continent. It's just going to be random. We don't know if it's going to use the same rarity rates as cards, which I think is like right now it's like 0.8% for a legendary card when you open a pack. Epic is 1.2%, I think. And obviously potions affect that, but we don't know if any of that's going to apply to the land reveal or not just yet. I'm hoping personally that legendaries are actually very legendary. I hope it's very rare, just so if you pull legendary, then you're gonna know that you pulled something very special. I'm hoping they're gonna be very scarce and have like the most rewarding benefits. I can say that obviously as I have a lot of land, so I'm not trying to be selfish, but I just want them to live up to the name, to be honest. So we'll see. But in terms of like rarities, I think the biggest the biggest thing I've seen too is so when land reveals hit, people are guessing or expecting that there's going to be a huge sell-off for like common lands because they people may think that commons aren't going to be that useful because it's a common land. And what I thought was interesting when I talked to Nate a few months ago, he mentioned something that I hadn't thought of, and that's when the land reveal happens. Again, it's all going to be just random. It's all random number generated. There's not going to be a set or a defined amount of each resource, each land type, each rarity. So what that means is that there may be a case where you have like a plains being like a bulk amount of the land plots. And if a legendary plane, if there's like 100 or 1,000 legendary planes, obviously it's not going to be as valuable as something that's a little more scarcer. So one thing I thought was cool too is like, say there could be, let's see, badlands that are very scarce for whatever reason. Like there's only 1,000 badlands total in the whole continent. Compared to plains, which is where like there could be at least like 10,000 plains. That means if you have a common badland, it could potentially be like just as valuable as like a higher rarity plane in that case. Because again, scarcity is going to play a huge effect on, I think, prices and value. And even if the rarity is a common, just depending on how I think the whole reveal happens, you may look out. You may get something that is scarce and it's something you may want to hold on to. So even if people do have a sell-off, I'd be very I recommend everyone paying attention to like what the different land type numbers turn out to be. And if there is one type that happens to be a lot lower than everything else, it'd probably be smart to get in as many of those types as you can. Because it's gonna be similar to right now. Like the scarcer it is, the more valuable it's gonna be for either selling or renting. So we'll see. I'm hoping there's going to be an interface that kind of keeps accounts with all the different types, so people can reference that pretty quickly. But yeah, there's a lot to that that we still don't know, but something just to keep on a lookout for. Beyond that, I want to say that's a basics of land. There is going to be more complexity to that, and I think that's when we talk about buildings, it's going to make it more than just obviously harvesting resources and then creating the items. Buildings, again, I keep referencing our guilds and how those worked currently. I think it's to be very similar. As you can see here, you have a ton of different options for your buildings, and I think it's one building per plot. That is not confirmed, just completely guessing. So we don't know how that's actually going to be. But if it is, it's definitely going to impact what your strategy is in terms of how many plots you end up wanting to buy. Because I would imagine that at least having one of each of these buildings is going to be useful in some way, shape, or form. But yeah, I think the main gist of it is you're going to have your storages, you're going to have your harvesting buildings, and then at least one building for manufacturing. I think it's been teased. Most of the upgrades is going to be through DEC. So again, similar to how guild buildings work. I think it was teased that SPS may have a factor on certain levels as well. I don't think vouchers. I think I misinterpreted that in the past that vouchers may come into play, but that wouldn't really make too much sense. SPS could though, potentially. Again, it's all speculation right now, but it's fun to speculate because I think that would give a little bit more utility for SPS, or at least give it more funds to the DAO if that ever happens. We'll see, but buildings will definitely have a big boost, I think, once we see land get introduced. Wonder if we need some of our wood, stone, and ore to construct our buildings. I think that's so. Even if you go back to natural resources, I think for the most part, I did probably misspeak. I think to actually construct the buildings, you'll need your natural resources. In order to upgrade, yeah, it may. I would assume you probably need some of the natural resources as well. Because like if you vision it as expanding onto the current building, obviously you'll need more of those resources. But could see it also just be straight up DEC or SPS as well. Good question. Something that we'll have to keep on the backlogs. So once they start releasing some of this information, we can hopefully learn more about that. Other than that, I touched on special buildings. So special buildings being castles and keeps. Like I mentioned before, so since there are only 150 regions total, that means there's only going to be 150 castles because it's one castle per region. It's one keep per tract, and since there's I think 1350 total tracts, that means 1350 total keeps, and the rest are 150 castles. What those do, keeps between castles and keeps, I think it's gonna like impact, or it's gonna boost the whole region or the whole tract. So depending on the level of the castle or the level of the keep, I think it's going to give you either like a harvesting boost, a minting boost. We don't really know what the different boosts are going to be, but something around that, the same degree of that. And I think the benefit of owning one of these is that you'll earn like a certain percentage of what people potentially like harvest within that tract where your keep is, or that castle where your region is. So if you own it, you're obviously, it's going to be kind of like a passive income from everyone else working their lands within that castle or that region and tract. So that's why I think castles and keeps are highly sought after, and they're going to be very, very expensive potentially. So during the reveal, if you get lucky with one of these guys, it's definitely something to show off, because everyone's going to be jealous. And I mean, that's just how it is. That's just kind of like getting a gold foil right now. But I think the passive income for a castle and keep are going to be a little bit more than that. But again, we'll see. I think castles and keeps for upgrading, this is where SPS potentially was teased on upgrading these specifically. Also, I think depending on what your SPS staked is, may limit you on what levels you can get up to. So if you're not already staking your SPS or stacking that, highly recommend doing that. It's always going to be, again, SPS and staking are going to be two critical things like going forward and progressing with this game. And if you ever want to boost your earnings, you're definitely going to want to just continue staking as much as you can, especially while the airdrop's happening. There's no reason not to be doing that. And lastly, your items and spells, kind of went through this already, but these are going to affect just the whole battle gameplay. We don't really know exactly in what way they'll be used for, but I imagine it like, say for example, you make a lineup and your opponent is using like an all magic team and you have no magic resistance. I assume like a simple one of the basic spells is either adding a certain ability to all your monsters, like the void armor to all your monsters in order to kind of counter that magic attacking. I could see that be a spell, or maybe it's not as, that seems overpowered. So maybe less overpowered would be just, reducing magic attacks by 1. I could see something just like that to be very simple for items and spells. One thing too with items and spells is that it's again not official, but they keep saying that at least Aggroed wants to see them to be similar to cards where you have to combine a certain amount of them in order to level them. And then each level will obviously impact the stats of that spell a certain degree. So I think one of the biggest questions with items and spells right now, if they're going to be one-time uses or not. I doubt that they will be, due to that whole leveling up process, because it just wouldn't make sense to combine 500 items to max it and then use it once and have it get burned. So I doubt that, but I could see it. I mean, just the whole burning mechanism is going to make items and spells pretty valuable in general. Again, with like the new ranked rewards, we don't know if there's going to be like ghost items or spells. There could potentially be. I foresee them being ghost items and spells because it would make an unfair advantage if new players, aren't able to use items and spells right off the bat compared to existing players because they, know how they work already and they already have some of them. So we'll see, but definitely leveling them up is going to be huge for owners that are just looking to refine and craft all these different items and spells and sell them. So I guess that's one thing I never mentioned too, is I think if you're a landowner, I think it's going to be a huge passive income. That's how I foresee it. So whether you rent out your lands or you actually work them and then sell the resources or even craft items and spells and sell those. I mean, again, I touched on it. All those, anything that you sell or rent out, all the income from that in like DEC is going straight towards to you. So that's what I'm looking forward to the most. Not as much as, what the value of the actual land plot is, more of like the value that that land plot is going to produce, for me. So it's going to be again, I can't say enough on how crazy I think it's going to be. But I think the biggest thing that we have to do right now is that we just have to be patient and we have to wait a few months to start hearing more land developments. Because I'll be clear. I think when the team says that they're working on land currently, I don't think that means they're doing any developments on it. There's still a huge design factor. Just like everything we're going over right now is not official. And I think that whole design stage still has to be done. When they say they're working on land, what I think that mainly consists of is creating the UI and UX assets for land. So all these different land types, rarities, resources, like all these are going to be different kind of components of land, and different visuals that you're going to see. And right now, the game is more of just, developers just adding or developing and throwing new code into it. Like there's a lot of integration with the creative team on getting these pieces to work as they should and show up as they should. So that's just my interpretation right now. When they say they're working on land, I think it's mainly just the creative team kind of producing those assets, which is still a huge, it's still a critical piece for land. But I think the main reason why we're not seeing actual, any new information about how land's going to work, because they just haven't gotten there yet. That's just a reality. I mean, I think once we get to the roadmap, you'll see, but there's just a lot of bigger projects that are being worked on at the moment. And I think once we get through that, then we'll start seeing those, during town halls, new snippets, of how certain aspects of land is going to work. So that's what I'm waiting on. I'll definitely make sure I get streaming or have a stream at least once a week to cover any new information that's released, because I know there's going to be a lot of preparation and a lot of talk in regards to that. So again, be patient. I think give it 2 or 3 more months until we maybe start hearing about all the information regarding that. And again, if you can hold through until that time, it's going to be very well worth it. And if it's not, you can just come and complain to me. I'll deal with it. I have a lot of land, so if it doesn't work out as I think it will be, I think I'll have the greatest impact. But we'll see. Lastly, so I can wrap this up, totems real quick. Totems, there's not a lot of information on them, but again, they're mainly just going to be assets that you can place on your land plots. So it'll be 1 totem per plot. and it's gonna affect your plot in a certain way. So I think right now they have it listed as like it'll increase the or it'll speed up minting time, could speed up harvesting time, reduce maintenance cost. I think we're gonna see a lot of different specific use cases for totems. So even if you have a large amount of totems right now, it'll be interesting to see. It's going to depend on what type of plots you have as well. So like in this case, they're specific to like a Death Splinter item card or like a Sparkstone harvesting. If you don't have a plot that you can harvest Sparkstone on, then that totem's going to have no effect. So I think I don't know if totems are going to be revealed within the phase 1 when land's revealed. That'll be an interesting question to look forward to as well. I'd imagine that they should be, because again, there's could be a lot of preparation in regards to that. Because like right now, I think I only have around like 250 totems compared to my 2,300 plots, and that's ideally that's not good. But I'm holding off personally on buying totems right now because I don't think the prices I think are a little too high. There are 50% of the totems are already released and being owned by players. The other 50% are still left to be kind of like found or distributed. I think it's been teased that they will be released during the actual like reveal stage, or when you work on the lands, you may kind of stumble on a totem. I'm not sure how it's going to work, but overall, 50% of the totems are still yet to be released. So that's why I'm not really prioritizing totems too much myself right now, because there's always that chance of getting totems for free just through working my land or revealing. So once I think once I learn a little bit more on how that's going to work, I may focus on the totems then. But right now, I'm going to hold off. I don't think it's going to be as important, but if you have plots and you curious about totems, it's not going to hurt having a totem, because if anything, you can always trade or sell them for another totem that will actually be useful. And just like lands, I think depending on what the certain utility of the totem is going to be, you may get a very scarce totem, and it may be more valuable than 10 of another totem. So it's a big gamble, but that's what makes the game fun. So that's totems. Let me get back to the chat real quick, because I'm very bad at looking at chat and trying to multitask here. So let's see here. Win land counter. Ron, I just talked to you about that. Definitely next stream. I'm hoping to add a count. Again, I think I'd be curious to see how much land I end up buying each week. I have been slacking lately, so definitely need to hold myself accountable for that one. Definitely, I think week or one plot a week should be manageable. We'll see. Darren here says, I bought a plot and totem. Other than SPS and max summoners monsters, is there anything else we should be looking at in preparation for land release? I mean, you just said you bought a plot and totem, so I think you're good there. I see a lot of people talking about preparing for like what summoners and monsters they should have. Again, without really knowing all the information or any information on it right now, I can't say, you should be going to get, a gold foil alpha legendary, because obviously if you can do that, you should, because that's probably going to be the best summoner you could ever use. But beyond that, I honestly just prioritize what you can buy yourself. I think any summoner or monster that you buy right now is going to be huge, because once we hear any information on, like what actual summoners or monsters impact is going to be on land, and if they have specific like different use case, like water summoners are only going to impact, certain types of land and whatnot. Once we get any of that information, I think we're going to see a huge price increase just on the card market in general. Because once land is even released, I think that's going to take up, I'm just shooting off numbers here, but I want to say like 20% of the current supply of cards are just going to be working on land alone. So whether that's accurate or not, I think either ways, there's going to be a lot of cards that people are going to start accumulating in order to prepare for working their land. So I think really anything that you buy right now is going to be good. If you can prioritize, I'd prioritize gold foils over regular foils. And then similarly, any older card sets, so like Alpha, Beta over Chaos Legion, or if you can't, maybe even just Untamed over Chaos Legion. I think that'll still give you a little bit of a bigger boost. But at the end, as long as you have the summoners and monsters to work your land, I think that's where you should start. If you can kind of build on top of that and just level them up and max them out, that should be the goal. And then once you max them out, maybe go towards gold foils or a older version. But yeah, I wouldn't be too concerned right now. Anything you buy is good enough. See, another question. Did you already cover summoners and monsters on land? Funny, I just kind of mentioned that. Again, this stream, I'm not trying to go into too much detail. So I want it to be more of an overview. Once we get some of that information, I'd love to kind of dive into it a little bit more. But again, it's all speculative right now. Me personally, I think one summoner and like 5 monsters is what we may see in terms of like working your land. So that's what I'm going for in terms of how I prepare for my land workers. Again, I don't even know where to start myself in terms of if I want to shoot for certain levels of summoners or monsters, shoot for a certain foil. I don't know. I think once I figure that out, I'll love to share that with you guys. If you guys have your own kind of strategies, I know in Discord, a lot of you guys discuss it. So I would love to kind of pull those in, because I know with the amount of land I have, the strategy that I take for preparing is not going to be the same as people with a few plots. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I do want to hear all those different perspectives. And so like the way I see the future for this stream is I'd love to have almost like any landholder on the stream just to talk about strategy, talk about preparation, what they're looking forward to. And that I'm not going to be only looking for people that have a lot of land. Even if you have one land plot, I think I'd still love to get you on and talk, because again, the whole point of the stream is to kind of be like a new resource for all you landholders out there. And I want to touch on everything, just every case or situation that a landholder may be in. So talking with people that just have a few plots, I think is going to be critical for people that only have a few plots and what that strategy may be. So that's the future of this. So if any volunteers out there, I'll definitely be asking around and seeing if you want to get on. That's going to be a little bit down the road once I get this up and running. And if people still like this or not, not really even sure how this is going. So we'll see. There's a small percentage of landing a castle upon revealing plots. Correct? Thought that was the case. Yeah. So talked about that earlier. Can do a quick recap. So if you have a single plot right now, the chances of getting a castle is 1 in 1,000 for that single plot. If you have a single tract, then that chance goes to 1 in 10. And then similar to like keeps, if you have a single plot, it'll be one of 100. You'll have a chance for getting a keep. So when we get closer to the land reveal too, we can go over that a little bit more. Sorry, I'm kind of just throwing it off for later, for future ones, because I would love to have this stream be like diving into specific aspects of land rather than covering it all, because there's just way too much to cover in one stream. And I haven't even got to the roadmap, and ideally this is only going to last an hour, but I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, so that's the basics of land. I do want to get into the buying and selling, or buying and transferring, as that is a very common concept as well. So the first thing I wanted to look at is Hive Engine. So there's 2 markets currently that you can buy land on. The first one is Hive Engine, and the second one is Atomic Hub, which uses the Wax blockchain. Hive Engine obviously uses the Hive blockchain. So for Hive Engine, all you need to do is go to hive-engine.com, and you want to search for a plot. Right now, since it is on the Hive blockchain, you can only buy with Hive. Very simple interface. Not going to go through actually buying it right now, but I recommend doing that. To actually transfer, Tribal Dex does work as well. I think it uses the same database, just different interfaces. So apologize for not mentioning that sooner. Both interfaces work the exact same in terms of actually transferring. So I'll go through one option. I don't recommend this option because it leaves room for a lot of mistakes. But if you did want to transfer it like the OG way, for Hive Engine, you want to send it to Steam Monsters. And I already almost spelled it. So Steam Monsters is exactly how I spelled it here. That is what you're going to enter in the to field. Quantity, we're just going to do 1. Memo's not needed because it's going to pull what you're logged in as, and this is like your username, so it's automatically going to do that for you. So in my case, it's going to be sent to Brybro27. Click OK, confirm your transaction. I highly recommend using Hive Keychain if you aren't already. If you're using Hive Key Signer, then yeah, that's a whole different issue. So here I have it cut off, but I did get a notification saying I got 1 plot from SL-Hive. That is a bridge that's used for Hive transactions. So if I refresh my page here, so right now I only have 69 within my inventory. Doing a quick refresh, even though this is not quick. All right. All right, so now if I look, I got 70. So that's how you transfer it that way. I don't, like I said, I don't recommend doing that way. I just covered it in case people wanted to know. I actually like BSwap. It removes the chance of mistyping Steam monsters. So if you log in, it kind of it'll show you what your inventory or what your wallet holdings are. And all you need to do is click this transfer guy. Here, you just put in the quantity that you want to transfer. It's not as clear that this is what you actually need to click on. Like, it's text, but you click on it, it acts like a button. If you click this, it's going to do the exact same transaction. And rather than having to enter Steam monsters and worry about all that, it takes care of all of it for you. And as long as the transaction is actually done, similarly, it'll do the exact same result here. And hopefully it'll just got the notification again. I highly recommend making sure you actually get it because you never know, there could be bridge issues. So here I got 71, so we're good. So those are the 2 ways for Hive Engine. Beyond that as well, which I'd like to make clear is that you can, I guess I'll do a quick transfer back to Hive Engine because I need another plot on there to demonstrate this. So if you ever want to transfer a plot out of the in-game Splinterlands, you can do so. All you need to go into your cards collection here, and then in the inventory spot, there is a other icon, looks like a pouch, and if you click that, it's going to show you anything that's not your cards. So like you can see here, titles were up above, you got your plots, totems, anything that's not cards is going to be shown here. If you want to transfer a plot out of your accounts, all you need to click on is tokenize. So this allows you to tokenize your plot and send it to either Hive Engine or Wax. In this case, I just want to send it to Hive Engine. Click OK, click OK. So rather than me receiving it in my account, I'm just going to be sending it. Should be just as quick. And if you view on Hive Engine, waiting. Still waiting. Again, sometimes this could take a little bit. It took a few seconds. It shows up there. So one thing I did want to cover is as long as you have at least 1 land plot claim within your inventory here, you actually don't need to use any of the transfer options on Hive Engine, BSwap. This works for Wax as well. You can use the tokenize option again to get it back into the game. And all that, it's the same process as transferring out, but rather than clicking the tokenize option, you actually click deposit. And so this is going to do the same exact request that I did earlier when I was like on Hive Engine and typing in Steam Monsters, all that. Same process, but it's just doing it all for you. There's literally no way you can mess this up, and it's gonna do that transaction, and should see the same result come up pretty shortly. Again, can't see a notification, but same sl.hive dash hive, excuse me. And we got that. I think the balance was skewed last time I looked at it. So 71, that is accurate. So I highly recommend doing that. Again, that only applies if you have a land plot claim already in your inventory. If you don't have the option. So this is a second account I have. And right now, since I don't have any land or anything in here, you can't tokenize it that way. So if you have one, I recommend going through that process. I'll go through Wax just quickly in case people want to know what that looks like. So here I'm on wax.atomichub.io. I personally like Wax, by the way. I think it's a great secondary market because Wax is very easy to get a hold of compared to Hive in my mind. But that's a whole different discussion. Once you buy a plot here, it should show up in your inventory. Here you click transfer. So Wax is going to be different. Instead of typing in Steam Monsters, you're actually going to be typing in Splinterlands. I have to double check I even spelled that right, because a lot of people do mess this up as well, and you can never double check what you put in here, because if you mess this up, your plot is basically gone for the most part. So no pressure, but that's why this video should hopefully, please reference this so you don't mess up. So 2 is Splinterlands, just like that. Memo, you do want to put in your username because again, this runs on Wax, so it's not able to pull that directly through your account. And yeah, so 2 Splinterlands, put your username as your memo, click send transfer. Obviously, it's going to have to do your whole approval process. And as long as I spelt that right, kind of hoping I spelt that right because that'd be very awkward on stream. But we should see a notification here. Ron, good try. Saw your comments. You need to buy your land on your own. May have just gave up a land though. No, I didn't. Still gotta wait. Again, bridges could be a little slow. So one thing while we're waiting for that, the same deposit process that I did before, you can use right here, and it works for Wax as well. I'm gonna wait until the first one goes through just so I don't get it mixed up and make sure it goes through. But yeah, while we're waiting this, can you post a link to a doc specifying the 2 name for reference? Yeah, either if it's gonna be on my recording or not, I'll post, I think there's already guides out there that have that, what the name should be and how to spell it. But yeah, I can either do a quick write-up as well. I can put it on my recording. Yeah, well, I guess you can never have enough references just to make sure you spell it right. Still waiting for my one plot. A little nerve-wracking. I guess while we're waiting, any other questions while we wait for this? Because I'm not moving on until I see my plot. This is not fun. Baron, I think I skipped your question before, so let me get back to that. Sounds like based on some things mentioned in town halls, is higher CP would be better for land. Completely speculative, but I assume that means high level / foil / or older cards would be better. Seems like there aren't enough cards to have all max monsters and summoners on land. Yeah, so I actually threw that out there in terms of, I think referencing the collection power of your summoners and monsters would probably be the easiest way to determine like what their impact is going to be on land. So what that means is like if you have a higher collection, a card that has a higher collection power compared to one that's lower, it's not going to have as big of an impact. I don't know if that's going to be the final say on things, because I know there are some weird cases where you could have like a max Chaos Legion card, and it could be like the same value as like a much older card, even though like the actual USD values may not align. So ideally, I would like to see like alpha and beta cards still have a much higher impact and utility than like Untamed or Chaos Legion. So I think collection power is the easiest way to like start it off, but I'm hoping kind of like the older sets have like a similar boost, kind of like what you see in the ranked play right now with, alpha cards having 10% DEC increase, and then beta cards having 5% now. So I'd imagine it'd be somewhat similar to that. Again, all speculative right now, so I can't say for sure. Yeah, so now we're just I'm gonna try to deposit one from Wax just to see how quickly this goes before I look, because it is saying that it was sent. Classic pop-ups not popping up. So one thing with Wax, I know Wax can be funky with if you use Cloud Wallet. So I think the biggest thing that I do here is if you go to your actual Wax wallet. I don't know what the actual, it's wallet.wax. A lot of times you do have to log out and then log back in. If you do that, I think for some reason, the pop-ups should be working. Oh, look at that. I think maybe you just had to do that to get the plot, because that finally did come through. And to be honest, I was a little nervous that I messed that up, but I didn't. So we finally got that guy. Now I can be relieved and do this deposit the right way. I'm selecting Wax here. Want to officially load. Dang, I got, what the? You can't see the full notification. But for some reason, it deposited on my other. So I think when I actually click deposit with Wax, the Wax Cloud button, I think it actually went through. Without giving me any like notification that process was started or anything. So interesting. So I guess I just need to do it one more time. Nothing happens here, so I imagine it's probably still going to go through. So let me wait here. I should see 76 at the end. I think 76. All right, but that's the main gist of it. Yeah, this is a scary part about crypto and just in general. If you make any type of mistake in terms of spelling or something, there's no going back. So that's why I highly recommend using like the built-in tools if you can. And if you can't, definitely reference any type of guide or this video before you actually do the transfer, because yeah, once you click that transfer button, again, there's no going back. All right, so I have 75 here. I sworn I should have 76. I'm not sure. Oh well, we can get back to that later. So that's the main gist of it. No questions. Let's get back. I think the very last thing I want to touch on. So ideally, these streams, I want to keep it to an hour so I don't bore everyone to death. Also, I'm not a big fan of talking, so this is definitely talking for a greater extent than I thought I would. But I do want to touch on the roadmap. I don't have that pulled up, so let me get to that real quick. I think my next stream, I'll probably start off with the roadmap and what we can expect going forward. I think overall, hopefully a lot of you guys have tuned into the town halls. If you're not, I highly recommend doing the town halls. I do make the town hall summaries. I am the creator of that. I think those are great references if for some reason you do miss a town hall, but still, I would still recommend at least listening to recordings, because just like I don't cover all the information that is discussed. And you also miss out on like the enthusiasm and excitement that Aggro, Hardpoint, Chatter, all the team members give off. So if you're ever questioning, if Splinterlands is gonna make it. Stuff like that. I mean, you just got to listen to those guys because it just kind of it just like lights the fire again every week. So it's something I highly look forward to. So would recommend that if you're not listening to it already. So in this last town hall, they did release the roadmap, which a lot of people were looking forward to. Unfortunately for us landowners, I will say it was disappointing to see land get like pushed back all the way to like Q3 as it is right now. So if you look at it right now, land phase 1 is set to be just like around the middle of Q3 of 2022. I think a lot of us were kind of expecting that, to be honest, since we just haven't had any new updates this whole year so far. But I think it's easy to be disappointed when you look at this roadmap and be kind of like nearsighted and be like, I thought land would be out by now. Like this is uncalled for. I can't believe they keep pushing it back. But like the way they explain it is that just all the other projects that they're kind of focusing on right now between ranked rewards, modern and wild. I think the big, SPS validators obviously, and the big one that keeps getting overlooked or forgotten is they're classifying as like the tech modernization phase. To me, what I think the better way of describing that is like we're going to be releasing kind of like a new interface, a new framework that the game is built on, and it's going to be a lot more mobile friendly. So that in general, I mean, I know the app needs some love, but a lot of our player base, I think, would love to use mobile if possible, but right now it's just not as friendly. So having that framework kind of be like released before like the first phase of LAN, I think is going to be pretty critical if you can like do everything you want to do on your phone compared to having need to be on like a laptop or a desktop. Same thing with like the non-card market. I think that kind of goes hand in hand with once you understand, where your land is located, what land type it is, what rarity, a lot of people are going to want to start trading and selling their plots in order to maybe say you want to just harvest or accumulate as much forest types as possible for whatever reason. You should be able to sell like a specific forest type on the market. And then obviously the different rarities should be supported as well. So I think that will be all included in this land phase 1. So not only will you be able to see where your plot is located in Pretoria, you'll see what the land type is, what rarity, and then you'll be able to buy, sell, transfer all those all within the in-game market. I'm sure they'll be supported on the secondary markets as well. But just the whole overview is it should be that once that's released, it's going to be all bundled into that together. Like I mentioned before, I think a good question would be if totems would be included in this reveal as well. I don't see why not. I could see it being pushed out toward the actual functionality since they don't actually affect anything until you can actually start using your lands, but we'll see. You never know. But yeah, I think, like I said, it's disappointing to see it be pushed back as much. But if you're a true believer, I think you're not too concerned, because once we get through all these other projects, I think just seeing where like the platform is, it's gonna have a huge impact on land, and I think that's the biggest thing that's overlooked right now. Like the whole reason land is valued to what it is right now is because of the huge growth that we had from like the SPS release. So land was actually sold before SPS, but then SPS was kind of released after the whole sell of land. And just seeing that impact right now, like I kind of want to compare that to the impacts that all these other projects will have as well. So even though it's being pushed out, I mean, all these are going to continue to create value towards the land that we hold. So there's no reason to force land to be released before any of these if they're all going to kind of aggregate into the value of land and how it's going to work. Let me get back to some of these comments real quick. Thought the current airdrop and SPS staking would end and we would roll into land staking. Not sure how that's going to work currently. I know a lot with SPS. One thing too we haven't really talked about is the SPS rewards for land. If you look at the SPS white paper, there's a certain amount of SPS like specifically allocated towards land. And we don't know if that's going to be through like working the land or what, but basically you're going to just continue earning SPS through just maybe holding land. I don't know how it's going to work, but it is included in the white paper. So if you haven't seen that, I recommend checking that out because that's just another incentive to just own land in general. But yeah, Baron's commenting. I'll scope of the stream. I'm curious about the SPS versus Splinterlands validators. That's going to be awesome. I'm not going to dive into it right now, but I do recommend if you're interested in SPS validators, listen to the next town hall. I believe Matt is actually going to be on it, and he's the one that's kind of heading up that whole project. And I think like Agrod was sharing a lot of excitement towards that whole project, and he said that I think they have a lot of like information to release. So if Matt is on, I think that's what we're gonna potentially hear a lot on is how SPS validators are gonna work, just the impact that they're gonna have, and then that's just huge because that's just introducing like actual governance and giving the main utility to SPS as it is. So that's obviously going to be huge, and that does impact land in terms of like governance too, because again, anything that we want to see with land, I think we can make those proposals and vote on them, and it's not as much as the actual team designing aspects of it. It could be more of like a community voted kind of functional agreement. So we'll just have to see. But yeah. So again, I think I'll probably touch on this again in the next stream right off the bat because I think there could be a lot more discussions around just this roadmap and why land is being pushed so far back as it is. I mean, I haven't even gotten to land phase 2, which just based off this roadmap is not even set to be released until, I mean, midway of Q1 of next year. So I think, I see both sides of the argument. If you are like original landowner from like the very start of the pre-sale, I mean, that's going to be like 2 years from when you originally bought land to when you can actually use it in game. So that's crazy to think about it. And I mean, if you're upset that that is the case, I mean, I see why. You can't argue against that. But again, I think just to keep the game running, to keep the game attractive, and to kind of understand the actual scope that land is, I'm hoping people can start understanding why it's kind of being pushed back because the team wants to do it right. They don't want to throw something just out there and just to say, you know, like, hey, you keep asking for land, so we mocked something up and we threw it out, so now you can be happy. No. I mean, they're going to do it right. They're going to do it based off like how we want to see it as well. And that's going to take time. And like I mentioned before, like everything that they do for land is literally, it's just adding value to land owners. Obviously it's going to make the game a little bit more attractive, the more, you know, value that they add to land. But in terms of how it rewards owners, like all those proceeds are going to us as the owners. So that's what I'm looking forward to as a passive income. And just the fact that they're going to make it super complex in order to like boost the whole ecosystem. I mean, I just think that's crazy. Can't really kind of shed any light on how crazy I think it's going to be. But once we get those details, I'll probably continue saying that's crazy at least 100 more times. And we can all look back on this. Let's see, Dragon. I think SPS being tied together so tightly with land, they need to iron out all the SPS stuff first, but it'll be worth it when we see how gigantic the project becomes. Yeah. I don't know. It's kind of overwhelming to even try talking about just even like the reveal stages. One thing I didn't touch on before too is that currently tracks and regions currently can't be split up. So if you bought them as a like whole tract or a whole region, that's you have like a tract claim or a region claim. Some people did buy in pools, meaning they all went into kind of pooled together $15,000, for instance, for like a region. And they bought it under one account, but one person currently is holding that right now. And ideally, the team, I guess, said that they would be able to split it. Right now, it kind of sucks because that one person's the one that's earning all the SPS from the daily airdrop. It is what it is. They haven't done it yet. I assume they probably won't do it until phase 1, which will probably be around when the airdrop ends, unfortunately. But once they do that, I think how the process is going to be is that you'll be able to split up your tract and region into individual plots and then reveal them. It would be kind of cruel if you had to reveal them first, because then it would make it a little unfair on how you distribute those plots to those pools. I wouldn't be worried about that. Just wanted to touch on that though, because that is another common question I see. So if you are in a pool, don't worry too much. They'll definitely they'll accommodate to people's concerns. It's already on the radar, and it's not really that big of a lift. Oh, but yeah, okay. I think that's enough me talking. I do need a drink real quick. Sorry, again, I hope you guys all bared with me in terms of my awkwardness, just talking in general. I appreciate everyone joining here. If you guys have any comments, feedback, anything, please let me know. This is going to be community centered. I'm not going to do what people don't want to see. This is going to be based off what you guys all want to see. So definitely bug me. If you guys can make this live again, I highly recommend it as well, because I love the interaction, especially if you guys have questions, can try to answer them on spot. I think the next few streams I want to touch on are obviously like this roadmap again. I think diving into the lore is going to be huge. I personally need to catch up a lot on the lore, because I just have not been keeping up to date with the different stories, let alone just the whole background on Pretoria in general. I know there's a whole lore book that's been released, and I think that's something I need to get my hands on, because I know Nate has been teasing that the more lore you know and keeping up to date with, it may actually provide some value later down the road. And I've seen there's some community discussions too about certain members looking into the lore and seeing kind of speculating different impacts in terms of the different monster types, how they affect workers, stuff like that. So I'd love to have those conversations in the future. So something I want to plan around that roadmap. And then again, obviously once we get closer to like actual land developments, I'll definitely be talking more in depth on how we can prepare together. And no matter how many plots that you have, hopefully we're all going to be in this together. So yeah, with that being said, probably gonna cut the lights out here. So again, thank you everyone for joining. Glad you guys could be part of my first land stream. And yeah, to many more. So if you guys don't have any questions, have a good rest of the day. Have a good weekend. And I'll see you guys probably over on Discord. Take care, guys.